So you're joining us on our trip down to Victoria, BC. We've just spent a load of money on a new toy. See you when we get there. Okay, so we've just arrived down in Victoria at the marina and we have just bought a Silverton 34 aft cabin motor yacht with a 12.5-foot beam, so nice and wide, and let's go and have an explore, see what she looks like. And there she is. So this is it. Double Dutch, 34-foot aft cabin motor yacht in a beautiful marina down here in Victoria, BC. So let's jump on and take a look around and see what she looks like. Okay, so we'll start up at the front here, at the bow. So forward hatch, loads of deck space on the front here. Covered over with a tarp at the moment just to help protect the isinglass at the top, tinted windows, and down to the front we've got lots of space for fenders, some are already out, electric windlass for the anchor, 300 feet of chain, and moving towards the back of the craft. Okay, so we'll climb in through into the aft deck here. Loads of space for sitting. Recently renewed isinglass and canvas, which is really nice. Great view out there. Barbecue on the back, lots of space. We have the access up to the cockpit there with our controls, and we'll come back to that one in a moment. And then down, access into the main cabin, down through the hatch. Go down, lots of space in here. They call this the condo on the seas, which is quite understandable. So heading towards the bow, we have really nice dinette just down there. Lots of space for sitting and eating. Great galley with fridge, stove, sink, loads of storage space, microwave. This boat comes with lots of accoutrement, so air fryer, things like that. We'll head down into the forward V berth. As we do, we'll pass the head, and there we go, with electric toilet, shower, lots of space in there as well. And then forward V berth with double bed, loads of storage underneath, a couple of hanging closets there as well, more storage, and this is the skylight we saw before when we were up on the main deck. Okay, so heading back up into the main cabin through the dining area, better view of the kitchen there, a couple of steps that lead us up, and I believe there's storage underneath these steps as well. There we go, got our controls for the power. We'll come back to those when we start looking at the mechanicals. Lots of space to sit, relax. Huge cabin area. You can see in the floor there we have the hatches that lead us down to the engine room. Got two engines on this one, so Crusader 454 XLs. The starboard engine actually doesn't work, which is why we managed to purchase this boat at the price we managed to get it for. So lots of work to do on it still. Behind that panel there, behind the mirror, is the electric panels, and again we'll come back to those. And then down some steps into the aft cabin. This is what makes this into such a special vessel. We have a full-size cabin at the back here, lots of storage, very warm in here. It's got a couple of heaters running, windows that take you out onto the rear and the sides of the vessel. Another head at the back here with electric toilet and stand-up shower. This one's even bigger than the last one, so lots of space in here. Okay, so that really is the inside of the boat. Lots to do, lots to get familiar with. It's going to take a bit of work to work out these engines as well. So let's see how we get on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is lift up the engine panels. I believe this is the first one that comes up. So let's see if we can get hold of this. It's the first time looking in the engine room as well, so it'll be interesting to see just what condition they're in. Okay, here we go. Panel number one. Ooh, looks very clean inside. That's a good sign. We'll just move that to one side. Okay. And then the second one. Whoa, what do we got here? So, already I can see the two engines. They're looking good. They're big, much bigger. Long block engines. We've got a Kohler generator at the front there. We've got fire extinguisher system. There's a lot going on. The bilge looks pretty clean. A little bit of water down at the very bottom, but not a lot, just a little bit of surface. I'm going to pull up this one as well. Let's just have a look and see inside this hatch. There we go. Oh. Okay, there we have Crusader 454 XL. Shiny. So this is the engine that we know is not working properly. So the story goes that the starboard engine got some water in through the fuel filler. Water got into the fuel tank. That overflowed through the fuel water separator and managed to find its way in through the inlet intake manifold. What's happened there is that's now gone down into the cylinders, and we believe it's locked it up. So the next thing on my agenda today is to get out the borescope camera. We'll link it to the laptop, pop a camera inside each of the cylinders and see if we can see which one's rusty. Theoretically, we should be able to see if any of the intake valves were open and which ones are actually storing water in there and which ones have blocked the cylinders. Fingers crossed, all we need to do is put some Marvel Mystery Oil in here, maybe a bit of ATF, some PB Blaster, leave it to sit for a few days, and hopefully we should be able to crank this over by hand. Done it before on smaller engines. Fingers crossed, that's all we have to do on this one. So, I've had to take my sweater off. It's pretty warm in the boat. So first thing we're going to do, check the oil. No idea what colour it's going to be. So pull the dipstick. This is on the engine that we know isn't running. So straight off, it doesn't look completely black actually. Still a bit of gold in there, which is nice. So let's just give that a dip. See how she looks. All the way in. How they cram these engines into boats, I don't know, because they're big engines. Okay, yeah, no, we're good. On the money. Let's have a look. There's no fuel in that. That's just oil. Great sign. Okay, so apart from a nasty taste in my mouth, next thing is to get the spark plugs out and have a look and see what's going on. We've got these exhaust risers that are coming off. There's two parts to these exhaust risers. We've got the top part that actually manages the water flow for the cooling. So it's raw water cooled, comes up through the bottom of the boat, goes through a series of pipes, goes through the exhaust and actually cools that exhaust. So this should be cold to the touch. That section, the top section, bolts onto the actual exhaust manifold themselves. They're the ones that are frequently rusting out. Sometimes between the two they rust as well. If there's any rust in those, we're going to have to replace them. They're about $750 each Canadian, but fairly easy to do. So first thing I'm going to do is grab a couple of spark plugs, pull them out, have a look at the condition of the plugs. Hopefully we will see either soot on them, maybe a tiny bit of oil or fuel. We might be able to identify which cylinder is blocked because it'll have rust on the end of the plug as well, especially if it's been sitting there for some period of time. I don't believe this engine was run for at least the last 6 months. It was running, according to the previous owner, it was running and it was running okay. Then it started to get water in the fuel, started to sputter a bit, and then next time he came to try it, it locked up. So he had someone take a quick look at it and they said that water had got through the fuel system. Both engines currently are linked to the port fuel tanks, 2 fuel tanks on this one. So theoretically we've got clean fueling both of these, but it does mean we've got a tank that's potentially got contaminated fuel in that we are going to have to deal with before we move the boat. Okay, so I've taken a quick look and the spark plug leads are already off. The plug's already out, which means someone's had a good look at this engine before. Not a great start for us, I'm afraid. What I'm going to do next though, before I start putting the borescope into the cylinders, I'm going to just remove the cover for the carburetor. We should be able to see the state of it. Remember, there was fuel and water coming through the carburation system, so theoretically if there's any water gone through the carburetor, it may actually be seized up, the flaps may be locked solid, it may have rusted. So let's take the cover off and see what we can see. Great thing about engines that have been worked on before, the bolts are loose. Here we go. Okay, so I'll take off the flame retarder. Should just pop straight up off there. That's on a bit tight. Get that off there. Yeah. Let's pull that back. Oh. These go back to the valve covers and just burn any excess fuel back through the rockers. Oh, great. Okay, just as I thought, we got rust. And a fair amount of rust showing on the top here as well. You can see the surface rust. So that tells me, yeah, we've got water coming in through the fuel system. Could be a problem. But the fact that the flaps are moving quite freely is a good sign. Let's see if we can move. So we'll have to disconnect the actual cable so that we can move these by hand. But the inside doesn't look too bad. So it's got Holley carbs on there, not the Rochester, which is common for this type of engine. So I guess the next thing then really, let's get the borescope, let's have a look inside the cylinders, let's see what it says on the laptop, see what we can see. It's a bit cramped down here, I'm going to have to do some contortion. Just not as young as I used to be. Here we go. Okay. So let's look in the back cylinder here. Oh. So you can see there straight away we've got some moisture showing on the cylinder wall, and see that rust color. So yeah, we got rust in that pot. Not a lot, still surface rust. I don't think that's going to stop the cylinder from turning. Let's see if we can see what's down at the bottom. Just push it a bit closer to the edge. See if we can deflect it down to the bottom, see the top of the piston. Okay, there we go, there's the top of our pistons. And
that's crusty.
Yeah, little bit of dirt and things in there, bit of surface rust, but again, doesn't look too bad. There's no scoring on the side. You can still see the cross hatching there on the cylinder wall, so I'm not too worried about that one. Not nice, but not bad. Let's try the next one along the line. Not the easiest things to work on. Okay, so this one looks a little bit cleaner. Let's push that in. Okay, this one looks good. Yeah, that's the top of our piston there. That is what they should look like. So I'm fairly pleased with that one. So number one so far is looking a bit unhealthy. Let's go to the next one in the line. Incredibly difficult to get to. In through the spark plug. Oh, there, we can see there's a valve open there. We don't know if that's exhaust or if that is intake. But let's have a look inside the cylinder and see if it gives us a clue. If that's intake, there'll be water in there. Okay, no, that's exhaust. Okay, that's the top of our valve. Top of our piston. That's looking good. See if we can get a bit of a look at the cylinder wall. That's the cylinder wall. Again, that's looking pretty good as well. Okay, right, final one. On this side. What's going on there? Okay, in we go. So this is the, oh my goodness. Okay, we've got a bit of water in there. Yeah. So that's the top of our piston. Just pull that back a little way so we can get a bit of a better focus. Lots of water in that one. Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is get that water out before we do anything to this engine. So water first, see if we can see the side of our cylinders. Very difficult to manipulate this camera. It's not meant for doing this sort of work, but no. I think that's as good as we're going to get. Lots of reflection coming off the light there. So, okay, so that's 2 out of the 4 on this side. Not looking too hot at all. Okay, so made a decision. We can't get to the very back of the engine that we're trying to unseize. It's very difficult to get to the last 4 spark plug holes on the other side. They're really close to the side of the boat. So, quick trip to Canadian Tire. We've got ourselves a syringe, some plastic tubing, and some electrical tape. The idea is we're going to use a piece of solid wire that we've got here, construct something so that we can actually put the tube around and use the wire to feed it to the spark plug hole, taking the tube with it, and then we can push the Marvel Mystery Oil in down the tube into the bottom of the cylinders that we're trying to unseize. So I'm going to just go off camera for a second and put this together, and then once we're ready I'll show you what it looks like as we try and get that fluid into the engine. Okay, so the issue we have is that the back of the engine, there's very little clearance back here between the valve cover and the side of the boat, which you can just see in the background there. So what we're going to try and do is use an umbilical we just made, which is a combination of the flexible tube we just bought, the green wire, which is a semi-solid wire, and the camera end. So we're going to use that to feed behind the engine, hopefully push the tube into the spark plug hole, and then at the other end we have just a cut off piece of tube here that we'll attach our syringe to, and we'll actually push the fluid down through the pipe and hopefully into each of the cylinders. We'll be able to watch all of that on our laptop, which is carefully propped on top of the engine. So we'll be using the camera to direct us towards the spark plug holes. So here we go. Okay, so let's bend that round a little bit and let's see what we can see. Put the light on. There we go. Okay, here we go. So cylinder number 1, what can we do? It's going to go down behind the heat exchanger and then come back towards the engine. Okay, I do believe I've just managed to get the first one in there. It's not terribly easy. Just going to see if I can confirm that by touch. Around behind. Oh, there we go. Let's have a look. Goodness me. I think that might be, Okay, so I think that's the first one in. The camera's not showing very much because it's right up, butted up against it. So it's time to pull out the syringe and up on the counter here, we have Marvel Mystery Oil. No one knows what's in it, but apparently it's really good. Now I've used this before to unseize engines and it's worked really well. You do have to leave it for a while so that it has time to penetrate and sort of work its way down. My understanding is it's a combination of acetone and ATF, which is the sort of automatic transmission fluid that you might use in your car normally. So I'm going to see if I can pull some of this up. This is going to be tricky in itself, into the syringe without spilling it everywhere, which is definitely tricky. Okay, there we go. We've got a fair amount in there. So I've got some in the syringe. We have our tube ready, and I checked before to make sure this fitted, and it does. Let's see if we can push that down the tube, and hopefully it'll start to make its way into the engine. Might need to do that 1 or 2 times. So let's get behind that. Let's try again with another load. I should probably put this in a bowl or something to make it so it's easier to decant into the syringe, because at some point this is going to come pouring out through the top all over my hands and the engines. Okay, syringe number 2. We don't need to go too mad with this, but I do want to make sure there's plenty in there to soak those cylinders. There we go. So that's the second syringe in there. So I'm just going to rest that there for a second, let some air get behind it so it can drain down that tube. You can see the bubbles going down at the moment. We'll let that drain down. Okay, I'm going to rest that up there just so it keeps it at a higher elevation. and wipe my hands off. So next step, I'm going to just check in a second to make sure that has gone into the cylinder. I'm pretty sure it has. These are the hardest ones to get to. As I said before, there's very little space between this side of the engine and the boat, which makes it almost impossible to get your hands in there. Now the great thing is someone has been in here before and removed the spark plugs and taken the leads off, so that saves us a job. The issue is we don't know what they did with the spark plugs or what the condition was of those individual pots as well. We haven't been able to get the camera in there, so kind of flying blind on this one. We can see this side of the engine closest to me, that's fine. The other side, not so much. Okay, so I've just got the second one almost lined up. I'm just going to show you what it looks like a bit closer up on the laptop screen there. So you can just about make out this here is our spark plug hole. And just on the side of the camera here, this is the end of our tube. So I just need to get this piece of tube into the spark plug hole, and then we should be good to deliver the second batch of ATF and Marvel Mystery Oil. Okay, here we go for the second one on that side. So there's the first bit of fluid in. You've no idea how difficult it is to get that camera and the umbilical into the cylinder. It's so difficult. So we're gonna have to do this in smaller batches. I'm gonna have to find a bowl, I think, for this. I'm getting covered in this Marvel Mystery Oil, which is great because it stopped my hands ever rusting. But I think for what we're trying to do, putting it into a bowl might be an easier option. So give it a last go with this, and then there we go. Right, try this last one, and then I think I should go and find a bowl to put the fluid into. Okay, there we go. That's the third one for that. So again, keep that above the height of the engine there. Just let that air go through the fluid and drain through. I'm going to go and find a bowl to put the rest of the Marvel Mystery fluid in there, and then we'll try again for the third on that side. Okay, so you really don't want to know how difficult that was to get that Marvel Mystery Oil into this engine. I had my son helping me, and thankfully he's way more adept at getting his hands into those tight places than I can. I can't get my arms through anymore. So the final job on this, while we leave it to rest for a few days, I've got some PB Blaster. Great for releasing things and getting rust off, and much as it's probably frowned upon, I'm actually going to coat it all over the throttle body, just to make sure that any of the surface rust and any of the gunk that we've got going on in there can be eased up. Again, just want to make sure nothing's seized up or too solid. So got a cloth at the ready to take any excess off the engine. Quick shake, and let's liberally coat this thing. There we go. Okay, bit fumy. I think that's going to do the job. So the next plan is to leave this for 2 or 3 days. We can let that ATF and Marvel Mystery Oil sit inside those cylinders. That should eat its way down past the cylinder rings, and if they are seized at all in the cylinders, should allow them to move. We may find that the engine still stays solid. We may not be able to free it just on the cylinders themselves. We may have some stuck valves. There may be starter motor engaged that's in the pinion drive is stuck in there as well. So a few things we've got to check when we come back, but for now we're going to leave this as it is, let it soak, and in the next video we'll show you what happens.